In this video, let's talk about when metadata lies. Okay, maybe we can be a bit less dramatic. How about we say, let's talk about when metadata can be incorrect. We all receive these DAT files that contain tons and tons of metadata information. They contain file information, they have names about senders, recipients. They also have extracted text that contains the actual contents of a document that we use for searching. So let's talk about how you can get incorrect metadata in your DAT files, or just in general when you look in the review system. How could metadata lie to you? First place we should start is dates. Now, we used to expect that when we see a date or a time field that it's going to be correct, and we can rely on that to sort data chronologically or to actually figure out what day the document was created or modified. One thing people don't realize is file created and file modified dates of eDocs depends on the computer time. So if somebody wanted to change the document's date, or they wanted to make it seem like they saved it on a different date or time, they can simply modify their computer time, resave the file, and that's going to be the timestamp that's assigned to the file. Yeah, I know right now computers are usually synchronized with the internet to get the time, but technically you could still change it. Next thing we need to address, metadata that contains hash values. Sometimes you get this text message collection from a vendor and they'll say, well, we guarantee that this data is correct because it has a hash value. However, receiving metadata with a hash value doesn't guarantee that that metadata is good. Unless you know what hashing algorithm they used, what metadata fields were used for hashing. You can put it together exactly the same way, rerun the hashing and receive a hash value. That's the only way you know the data you received is good. Simply having a hash value means nothing. And this is especially true if they're using some kind of proprietary tool or proprietary hashing method, because that means you cannot recreate those hashes and confirm anything. It's you relying on their word that it's correct. Next, time zones. If somebody processed data incorrectly, they may try to correct it by adjusting date and time fields to make it look like they're processed in the right time zone. Well, sometimes people don't do it correctly. The problem with changing time zones is daylight savings time. And daylight savings time starts on different month in a different year. So it's really hard to actually do like an Excel formula and try to add +4 or +5. So a lot of times when people try to do it in Excel, they do it incorrectly and they mess up dates and times. The reason why I say dates is because if time is close to midnight, the date has to roll over to compensate for that. So that's where you could see date and times incorrectly. And believe it or not, one of the modern forensic collection tools that a lot of people use does not export data correctly to account for daylight savings time. We've exported data for Eastern time zone and it did not do anything to account for daylight savings time. It just simply did like you would do in Excel, -4 and done. So between somebody butchering up dates and times in Excel to bad software, if the time zone conversion happened, there is a good chance it got screwed up somewhere. And speaking of butchering things up manually, there are times when you can get errors in a DAT file that happen because of somebody did some kind of search and replace. So somebody was trying to fix a field and they replaced the delimiter, or they replaced something incorrectly, and now fields starting to shift. Well, shifting fields are kind of a big deal, because when you expect a certain field to be appear in a certain field and you do a search by that field, if it shifted over to the side, you may not be able to catch that data if you perform in a search. And the other problem you may get when fixing that file is, let's say somebody ran a production with incorrect prefix, and then instead of rerunning it to fix it, they decided to just search and replace. Well, when you search and replace in the DAT file, you're not just going to search and replace backdoc, enddoc, bagattach, and attach. You're also going to replace occurrence of those fields anywhere else. So if you were using like prefix ABC and you change it to XYZ, well, if ABC appears anywhere else in the subject or file names, that'll get replaced to XYZ. So a sloppy mistake like that can also cause metadata to be bad. Now, the last place where metadata could be deceiving is when you're trying to manually adjust dates and times of files to make it seem like you produced your documents on a different date and time. So this happened to me a few times where client had asked us to run a production, we exported it out, and it was just sitting on the server for a while. And then they said, oh, we need to produce it now. But could you go in and change the dates and times to be today's date? So when the other side gets it, they'll see all the TIFFs and natives and text so that they have date created of today. Now, whether that's ethical or not, I'm not gonna touch that right now. But if you were to look at the dates and times, they have been modified, so you will not know when they actually ran this production. Now, one thing you could do is if you receive the production on NTFS formatted hard drive. NTFS stores dates and times down to milliseconds. So if you look at the millisecond timestamp and you see that they're all the same, well, you know that those dates and times have been changed and somebody's trying to mess with you or trying to change the date as far as telling you when the data was actually produced. So that's my list of situations where metadata can lie to you. If you think I got them all, hit the like button. If you think I missed any, put them in the comment section below. We'll talk about it. Thanks for watching. Okay, this car is creaking and making weird sounds. I'm a little uncomfortable. I'm gonna get out of here.